Lamar Jackson sent a fiery message about his goals for the 2025 season. We talk about that. John Harbaugh announcing key injury updates for the Ravens, along with observations from rookie minicamp, as well as the Ravens bringing in veteran offensive line help. All that and more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, and we are here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and as an audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're a 5-day-a-week Ravens show, so Monday through Friday, we have you covered. Plus, we have bonus episodes on the weekends sometimes to go live after every single Ravens game and every piece of Ravens big news, and we have everything you need from a Ravens perspective. So thank you to all the everydayers out there, the first-time listeners, or if you're somewhere in the middle, your support is really, really appreciated. We have a jam-packed, actually pretty jam-packed weekend for the Ravens, right? Jam-packed episode, jam-packed weekend. Man, it's crazy. This is episode 1501 of Locked On Ravens. If you missed it, Friday's episode was my 1500th consecutive episode of this show, dating back to August of 2019. We had Damian Parson, one of the hosts of Locked On NFL, join, and he broke down everything from a Ravens draft perspective, Ravens undrafted free agent perspective. But, 1,500 still, it's such an incredible milestone. There are so many people I can thank, from David Locke to Carl Weinstein to everybody on this network, to everybody who listens to the show, all the guests I've had. I mean, this is not possible without the support of so many people. And, it's 1,500 strong now, or I guess after this episode will be 1,501. And can't wait for many, 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 many more episodes here of Locked On Ravens. So let's dive into it. We have a lot to unpack from the jam-packed weekend. We'll talk about Lamar Jackson sending a fiery message. We'll talk about John Harbaugh with his injury updates and minicamp still going on. Rookie minicamp this is the last day here on May 5th. And then Baltimore adding some veteran offensive line help over the weekend. So Lamar Jackson, he is ready for the season. He is ready to compete. He is ready to play football. And look, I'm ready for Lamar Jackson to play football too. There was a thread that was put out over the weekend by Warren Sharp. Now, Warren does really, really great work, and he's a guy that goes in depth on a lot of different things. Obviously, he's over there at sharpfootballanalysis.com, and he was going through, because he does something called a preview book. It's a 2025 preview book, and he was doing the Ravens chapter, I guess, yesterday on Sunday. He put Lamar Jackson's stats for the 2024, so I think he meant 2024, not 2025, but regardless, for his season last year. Lamar Jackson, number one in EPA per attempt at throwing outside the numbers, throwing one outside the pocket, early downs without play action, throwing one kept clean, versus all zone coverage, versus too high in the fourth quarter, when passing within 2.5 seconds inside the red zone. And then also, he was in the top 5 in throwing between the numbers, all short and intermediate attempts, when pressured, throwing inside the pocket, third and fourth downs, and throwing with play action. And Warren put a whole thread of Lamar Jackson's stats, talked about his playoff performances, and really, honestly, came to the defense of Lamar and put out all these stats to show, hey, if you're not already understanding how great Lamar Jackson is, Warren said, let me put it out for you. Let me show you, and we'll get into some of those stats. But Lamar Jackson, I guess he saw this or saw a response to it, and I don't know where someone must have commented all for nothing on this because the Ravens didn't win the Super Bowl, he didn't win MVP, whatever it was. But he said, quote, all for nothing, let's turn it up a notch. Hashtag 2526, hashtag patiently waiting with a football emoji. And then someone else commented, wasn't for nothing, Lamar, part of God's plan is to met your legacy, ultimate goal incoming. And Lamar said, quote, God's plan, no doubt. LOL, I got to add some more fuel, though, for the ultimate goal. It's never enough. Lamar wants to win. Lamar wants to compete. And he in this Ravens team, they continue to add fuel. Now, at some point, hopefully they stop adding fuel and just go out there and do the thing, but they have a lot of fuel. And Lamar is someone that we know is uber competitive and wants to go out there, play his best, win not just for himself, but win for the city of Baltimore, win for his teammates, for his coaches, for everybody around him. But this, to me, Lamar's excited. I'm excited. And the fact that, he's coming out and adding this fuel to the, or at least saying he's adding this fuel to the fire, and kind of combing through these stats that Warren put out here, there's actually some really important context I want to dive into. I'm not going to spend this whole segment just talking about 2 Lamar Jackson tweets. I want to read out some of these stats and provide context to those, because I think Warren did a really good job here of kind of outlining what Lamar did last season and what Lamar has done over the course of his career and kind of what he faces. So he said, quote, "Everyone who slams Lamar in the playoffs should be aware, out of 19 quarterbacks with 50-plus attempts in the playoffs since 2021, Lamar ranks number 4 in yards per attempt, number 6 in EPA per play, number 6 in completion rate, number 7 in success rate. Lamar's playoff yards per attempt, number 4, is higher than Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, and Tom Brady. And his EPA per play in the playoffs, number 6, is higher than Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, Brady, Matt Stafford, Herbert, Brock Purdy, among others." But here's other context Warren provided. Lamar Jackson faces the number 1 highest rate of blitzes of any quarterback in the playoffs at 53%. Now, the average is 26%. That is less than half of how Lamar Jackson is blitzed and how often Lamar Jackson is blitzed. So Warren, again, providing amazing analysis. Be sure to check him out at sharpfootballanalysis.com, where he has a lot of other insights. But I really wanted to highlight this thread from Warren because it has a lot of important context, where Lamar has not been, at least over the course of his career, he's had moments in the playoffs where he has shrunk. But it is unfair to pin all of the Ravens' playoff struggles on Lamar Jackson because, one, I think people look back to that Tennessee game, 2019, where the Ravens went 14-2, right? And Lamar, that adds, talk about him saying fuel to the fire, all these playoff losses, each one adds fuel. I'm sure that one adds fuel, even the one his rookie season, right? All of those failures, and I'm not classifying each Ravens season as a failure. Like that 2018 season where they lost to the Chargers in the wild card, that was a successful year because I think that showed them that, hey, Lamar can do this. He went, 6-1 as a starter that year after Flacco went down and almost led that crazy comeback. It was the Lamar Michael Crabtree show at the end of that game. Kenneth Dixon had a big reception. Those are throwback names right there. But again, he adds fuel to that fire. But at the same time, yes, he's had moments of bad in the postseason. We saw it even last year. Lamar was not, he's not absolved of all blame in that Buffalo game. Mark Andrews had his part to play. Lamar had his part to play, etc. I think that in 2019 and 2023, yes, Lamar had bad moments. Absolutely. But John Harbaugh has had bad playoff moments. Greg Roman had plenty of bad playoff moments, particularly in that 2019 year. Todd Monken, 2023, that coaching staff, that was bad. Zay Flowers had a fumble. Andrews I talked about. This is not all Lamar. That Tennessee game, Lamar had 500 total yards. He and Marcus Peters were the only ones that showed up that day, in my opinion. Maybe a couple others. But it was difficult because, yes, Lamar is a quarterback. He faces the scrutiny. He's the guy that's going to get the blame. All quarterbacks, or at least most quarterbacks, do. But to Lamar, I just think people are so dug into this narrative of Lamar can't win in the playoffs. Oh, Lamar's a playoff choker. Whatever thing you want to put out there, people are so dug in on that. Whenever the Ravens lose in the playoffs, for some people, there is not any context of like, oh, hey, Lamar did this. No, it's just, oh, Lamar. It's Lamar's fault. It's Lamar's fault. The Clippers lost to the Nuggets in 7 games, and I'm a Nuggets fan, so, shout out to the Nuggets. But people are comparing James Harden to Lamar Jackson and, oh, Lamar, never going to win a ring, never going to win a ring. Like James Harden to a lot of people is his style of basketball. People think he's never going to win a ring because of it. That's not Lamar. Lamar's style of football, it's a style of football that can win a championship, especially with the right pieces. They just have to execute. And Lamar, again, Was he good in the first half or, that first part of that Buffalo game last year? No, he made a couple of crucial mistakes, a couple of huge turnovers, but he almost willed that team to a victory. And the Ravens, with that 2-point conversion, I mean, the rest is history. But there were moments from others in that game as well. That defense couldn't stop anything in the first half. We're not talking about that when we should. That's the thing that Lamar has to deal with year in and year out. And again, I'm not trying to say Lamar doesn't have any blame. I'm trying to hammer that home. Of yes, Lamar's a part of it, but he is far less a part of it than people make him out to be, because people just want to blame Lamar for everything when the other quarterbacks, they don't get as much of that. They don't get as much of that because, for Mahomes and his 2 Super Bowl losses, yes, the offensive line was atrocious in both those losses, right, to Philly and then obviously to Tampa Bay a couple years ago. If that happened to Lamar would have been talked about as, was Lamar good enough? Was Lamar good enough? And again, Mahomes shouldn't be blamed for that, right? Yes, obviously he deserves some blame because he didn't play well either, but there was context to why. With Lamar, it feels like that context is looked over. Not by everybody. I'm not saying everybody does it, but more often than some others. So, that's the unfortunate truth of it. Now, you also look at some of the other stuff Warren put out here with the blitzes and whatnot. Lamar Jackson ranks number 1 in the playoffs statistically versus what quarterbacks face most of the time with zone coverage without blitzes. Now, combining the two in the NFL playoffs, that is zone coverage, because you also look at the other context. Lamar faces the highest rate of man coverage of any quarterback in the playoffs, 50%. The NFL average in the playoffs is 27% man coverage, almost half of what Lamar faces. Now, Warren also added for context, Josh Allen faces man coverage on just 17% of those dropbacks. And the NFL is facing zone coverage on 73% of those dropbacks, which is crazy. I mean, again, Lamar faces a lot more man coverage here, as Warren is indicating. So you combine the zone coverage and the blitz rates in the NFL playoffs, just NFL wide, quarterbacks face man blitzes on only 12% of dropbacks. Mahomes is at 12%. Lamar faces man blitz at over 3 times that rate, according to Warren here, 37% of his dropbacks. So here's what Warren's takeaway is here. The Ravens must devote a large portion of this offseason to solve for man blitzes on Lamar Jackson. He's statistically the number 1 best quarterback in all other situations. No quarterback sees more man blitzes than Lamar. The Ravens should know by now to expect it. They need to be better prepared schematically to punish teams that try out. If the Ravens figure out not just how to survive, but to thrive versus man blitzes, defenses will be more apprehensive about dialing it up. And again, if you want more analysis on that, be sure to go check out Warren Sharp's book, The 2025 Football Preview. There's going to be a lot in there. So shout out to Warren. And I think it encapsulates a lot of, hey, you know what? Teams are trying to solve Lamar this way, and other quarterbacks don't face that. I think it's an indicator of how much respect Lamar has around the league and how much you truly have to, how many resources you truly have to put into Lamar Jackson and stopping him to actually stop him. And that's not saying that other quarterbacks aren't good or Lamar this, Lamar that, but it gives context to, hey, these teams are settling out here. And if the Ravens can figure that out, hopefully it'll be this year, but if they can figure out the man blitz stuff and identifying certain things, Warren mentions schematically, and Lamar dialing that up and figuring it out, this team's going to be even more dangerous than they already are. So a lot of context there from Warren, and Lamar Jackson certainly fired up about it, as again, he says that he essentially is ready to go here with a couple of pretty fiery messages, in my opinion. Now, with Lamar being a competitor, I don't expect anything less, but he wants to turn it up a notch. Hopefully the Ravens can do it and win a Super Bowl in 2025. Coming up, though, we're going to be diving into more Ravens talk. John Harbaugh, rookie minicamp, announced some key injury updates, both for a rookie and for someone who is not a rookie. So be sure to stay tuned. We have a lot coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Now, if you need to find the right talent or help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Plus, you can post a job and it's free and simple to do so. On the day we have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Again, that's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Monday edition of the show, May 5th. Appreciate everybody for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Rookie minicamp still in session, but kicked off on Saturday, goes through today, and it's good to see the rookies out there. They all got their jersey numbers. Obviously, Malaki Stark's wearing 24. Mike Green is going with 45 this year. It's fun to see the guys get their numbers and get acclimated. This is the first step on a new journey for them. And, we'll hopefully hear a little more about how they're doing as today ends, and maybe there'll be some stuff to react to tomorrow and talk about. But overall, John Harbaugh talked to the media on Sunday, so yesterday, and provided some injury updates on a couple of Ravens. One, a new one, and one, someone who's been with the team for a couple of years. So Emory Jones Jr., who was their third round selection pick, number 91, he has a shoulder injury, a labrum, that will keep him sidelined potentially until training camp. So he was in his jersey, but no pads, watching the offensive linemen do their thing while he was not participating. Harbaugh on the injury said, quote, "It's going to be a little while." He had a labrum shoulder issue I don't think you guys were aware of. I don't think it's going to clear up now. Probably be looking at training camp, maybe early. We'll just have to see how it goes. He's not going to practice in the immediate future. Now, Harbaugh was also asked, could minicamp maybe be a possibility, which obviously comes a little bit sooner than training camp does. And Harbaugh was non-committal on that as well, made it clear that they don't want to really push it. So I wouldn't be shocked if Emory Jones is sidelined until training camp. Now, I've made my stance clear on this. I think that Jones should be in the conversation to start at guard this season. I don't know that he will be. I think he should at least have a shot at it. But for me, my prediction is that it's going to be Daniel Falele and Andrew Voorhees. I don't love that personally, but I don't know. I just think that's my prediction. I think that Jones kind of fills in as maybe your backup guard, or maybe if something goes truly wrong, you can put him in. I don't know if I'd expect Ben Cleveland to be over him on the depth chart or not. I know Cleveland was re-signed, but really feels like he's in John Harbaugh's doghouse, and I don't know if being re-signed is a, hey, get out of the doghouse free card. I'm not really sure that's the case. So I'm not sure. I mean, I think Emory Jones has a ton of talent. Obviously a guy that's playing a lot of big games, but he's someone that, you'd like to see on the field. But Harbaugh's 100% correct here. Like, you're not going to push it. These are reps that are important, but they're not important enough to potentially make an injury worse. Like, it's not worth it, or rush a guy back from an injury either. So I'm not expecting personally to see Emory Jones until training camp, but we will see. I'd probably expect him to just be that depth piece his rookie season who could maybe fill in case of emergencies, but we'll see. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the final part of the show too, because with their new offensive line addition, could maybe even push him further down on the depth chart. So we will see how that plays out. Now, a big injury that happened for Baltimore last year was Zay Flowers. Flowers obviously had a knee injury last year, cost him both playoff games. He got injured in week 18, obviously, as Baltimore is trying to wrap up the division. It was winning they were in, and, they won, but they essentially had to sacrifice Zay Flowers in the process. Didn't play against Pittsburgh, did not play against Buffalo, and they really could have used him, in my opinion, against Buffalo. Flowers, Harbaugh said, did not require surgery. He did not need surgery for that injury. I know there was some speculation about what it was and how bad it was and if they would actually need to have surgery on the knee. If Flowers would have to have surgery on it. We now know that answer is no. John Harbaugh said it did not go to surgery. Actually, he was doing a little dance in the weight room this last week. He said he's feeling great. His knee's back. He did it with rehab. So that's great news. That's great news. I'm glad they didn't have to get super invasive for it. Zay was obviously able to just rehab it, and seems like he's back. You know, he was awesome last year. He had over 1,000 yards. He had 14.3 yards per reception, 74 catches. He was the first Raven to make the Pro Bowl as a wide receiver, which was really awesome. So I know that sometimes surgeries, recovery timelines can be complicated. Obviously, you know, we are months and months out from January. So, you know, I don't know what that timeline would have looked like. Maybe he would have been a full go for training camp or whatnot, but seems like everything went very smoothly and Zay is back, which is very, very important. So 2 injury updates for John Harbaugh there. You know, hopefully we're not hearing a lot of other injury updates as, you know, the off-season content continues and the off-season workouts continue. Injuries happen in football, but these things, obviously Jones with the labrum and Flowers with the knee, things that will hopefully, you know, Zay's apparently done with everything, but for Emory Jones, hopefully will all be cleared up by the time training camp rolls around. But speaking of Emory Jones, we'll be talking about the latest offensive line depth addition for Baltimore, and it might shock some people who it is. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll have to get to on Locked On Ravens. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher here with you still on it this Monday. Appreciate everybody again for being here. Episode 1501 of Locked On Ravens. The communities we have built here are absolutely incredible. We started this off in audio form in 2019. That was episode 1. I was out in LA working for the network as an intern, and, you know, they offered me this job after my internship, and, you know, couldn't have said yes quickly enough. And from the first episode of me doing this with my earbuds in an Airbnb to where it is now, we're getting the setup going. You know, we're waiting for stuff to come in. It's going to be really exciting, and it's been an exciting journey. So from that, we started up video form a couple of years after we did audio only, and, you know, audio form, video form, social media, subtext, all the communities have been absolutely incredible. So be sure, if you want to be a part of that community, if you're not already, our community here on Locked On Ravens, hit that like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form. Tell a friend, tell a family member as well. If you want daily Ravens coverage, or if they want daily Ravens coverage, be sure you keep it locked in on Locked On Ravens. Now, if you've been keeping up with the Ravens this past weekend, you know who the Ravens signed on the offensive line. You know, we're going to break it down, though. It's Joe Noteboom of formerly of the Los Angeles Rams. Now he is a member of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Noteboom is someone who Rams fans do not speak very highly of. Now, part of that is he got a big extension, or at least a big extension for who he was from Los Angeles. It was a 3-year, $40 million extension. Now, he did not live up to that extension whatsoever. If I had to classify Joe Noteboom or Joseph, I don't know which he goes by. Actually, I think he's listed as Joseph, so let's go with Joseph for now. Joseph Noteboom. He's in that same tier, I would say, as some of the other tackles Baltimore has had over the years. You know, obviously Josh Jones last year, Juwan James is someone they had, maybe Alejandro Villanueva, although I know that did not work out. I'd hope he's a little better than Villanueva was. That was a disaster. But some of those swing tackle options, Tyree Phillips, I guess, although he was kind of a guard tackle guy. Noteboom does have experience, both guard and tackle. His stats last season, not particularly impressive. Again, he didn't have the best of years. I would probably say that he's going to fill in as that 6th offensive lineman, though, someone who you probably put in those extra packages. He had a 46.9 pass blocking grade, 70.6 run blocking grade, and a 60 overall grade last year, according to PFF. Also, we had 3 penalties, 2 sacks allowed, and 220 snaps, played 93 at left tackle and 127 at right tackle. And shout out to Ramey for those stats, by the way, over on Twitter. Appreciate you, Ramey, for those. Again, not a guy that I'm expecting a lot out of, if I'm being honest. You know, it's a depth signing and someone that will be a depth piece for them. But now you look at this Ravens offensive line, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, kind of complicates a little bit of who makes the roster and who doesn't. I know there's some conversation about will Noteboom even make the roster. I think that he probably will, but you're just kind of looking at the offensive linemen who we expect to make the roster, or at least expect to have a shot to make the roster. It's Tyler Linderbaum and Nick Samek at the center position. You then move over to guards, Ben Cleveland and Daniel Falele, obviously Andrew Voorhees as well. So you're already up to 5 there. Then you have Garrett Dellinger, who, I expect to compete for a spot. He was a 7th-round pick, so there's 6. And then we just talked about Emory Jones, obviously Roger Rosengarten, Ronnie Stanley, Carson Vincent. That's 10 already. There might be an undrafted guy. Baltimore realistically could keep 10. They definitely could. Vincent, Stanley, Rosengarten, Jones. Maybe Corey Bullock competes. That's someone that could. But if they keep 10 offensive linemen, wouldn't shock me. But I do think that right now, this is probably all the offensive linemen that they're going to be able to keep on the 90-man. Like, I could see paths where Noteboom gets cut. I just don't. I think he's going to be the guy for them. Harbaugh spoke on it. He's excited about it. So we'll see. But someone that I think can, be that Josh Jones-esque guy. You're not going to expect a lot of him. He can start if you want to. Well, not if you want to. I guess if you have to have him start, he can be someone that can fill in for Stanley or Rosengarten, because you don't have McCary as that safety blanket anymore. I mean, Cleveland has experience. I wouldn't say a lot, but he has experience doing that. Falele can kick back out, although I would not recommend that at all. So I think Noteboom is your guy. Like, he is your swing tackle. Jones could do it too, but I think that overall, I would probably predict that they have the veteran over the rookie on the depth chart, and it will be Noteboom over Jones getting those opportunities, and we will see how that plays out. So I think it's interesting to kind of talk about and think about, but Noteboom now officially a member of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Harbaugh spoke, again, as I mentioned on Sunday. He said they have 60 players, well over 60 players, for rookie minicamp at all levels. Obviously, you got the draft guys, undrafted guys, tryout guys. So there's a lot of guys competing for spots. The Ravens love trying to find those diamonds in the rough, even if it's just to be on the practice squad. We've seen practice squad stories from Baltimore be really successful recently as well. So that's an option. He talked about Mike Green a little bit. He likes seeing the faces of all the guys, and, good to see Mike Green out there. Good to see all the guys out there. And I think for me, it's important that these guys kind of get their first taste here at rookie minicamp. Green spoke to the media. He didn't really comment on the allegations against him, said he was looking forward to moving forward with his career. And that was kind of the answers that, were put out there by Mike Green. But he also hopes that Malaki Starks learns how to be an all-pro, and he says, to whom much is given, much is required. And nobody understands it better than him as a young guy. He said he's impressed with his maturity. He broke the huddle down on Sunday, and he said that's not an easy thing to do when it's your first time doing it. So far, so good, Harbaugh said there. He also talked about how the team, he'd like to have joint practices during the training camp portion of the offseason. Said that he's talked to the Buccaneers and the Commanders about it as well, but then he says, well, the league controls who you play, so you got to kind of talk about logistics with all of that. It makes sense to, I'm sure the Commanders will be on the schedule, but if it's the Buccaneers or not, we will see. He's super excited about Tyler Loop. Now, he did talk about Justin Tucker being in the building the last couple of weeks, and said that the decision at kicker with the NFL's investigation still going on will be a football decision. Now, when that investigation concludes, we'll kind of see how that tune changes. But he talked about Loop, saying we took him in the 6th round, early in the 6th round. He's a talented guy. Just from a football standpoint, salary cap, all the different things you just take into consideration whenever we decide to do over the next few weeks would be based on football. That's what Harbaugh said. So that was the stance that he took on that situation. A lot of good things, though, from the rookies. It seemed like a lot of guys getting into the groove of things, having chips on their shoulders, being excited. Mike Green said that waiting in the draft and falling was a motivator for him. He's been able to keep a chip on his shoulder, and he feeds off of that. Said that it was a blessing in disguise to to fall down to the Ravens. He and his family got to celebrate it. And, the Ravens have, I think, 2 steals here in Malaki Starks and Mike Green. You talk about their on-field process, on-field production, obviously Green with the 17 sacks, Malaki Starks with ball production, etc. It's something where Mike Green, he was asked multiple times about his allegations, and, he said that he wasn't picked in the first round like he wanted to. He said that you just needed one team to choose you, and it happened to the Ravens for him. Said he's blessed to be here. So that was the stance that Mike Green took on that. And then you also have guys like Aeneas Peebles, who talked about his nickname Fub. He said he got the nickname when he was a little kid because he was fat and chubby. He said that he rarely hears his government name nowadays. So apparently Fub might be the way to go. He said that he was fat and chubby, so they always called me Fubby growing up. And now that I got older, got shortened to Fub, so he ran with it. So it might be Fub Peebles we're talking about is the newest Ravens defensive lineman. Malaki Stark said that, it's a great opportunity to be with the Ravens, and said they got a great group of guys. And you didn't think he was actually going to break down the huddle. John Harbaugh actually threw him off a little bit, Stark said, but he said it was an honor. He didn't take it lightly, and he hopes to do it again. So, Harbaugh talked about his maturity. You can certainly see that with Starks, and honestly, it feels like the Ravens really value that. Win now guys, mature guys who are able to come out and not only produce on the field, but hopefully, take a role off of it as well, a good role off of it. I think that Starks also, big comment he had was the energy was really good. And, the meetings, everyone was on time. And he said that the message from him was just to keep the same energy, essentially. Keep having fun, chasing our dreams. So we're all supporting each other and keeping it going, which was awesome. He also said that Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith have reached out to him. So it's exciting. Like, football is starting to get back in the air. Now it's a year-round sport. You get to the Super Bowl and that's done. Then you have free agency. Then you have the draft. And now obviously rookie mini camp, you get OTAs, mini camp, training camp, preseason, then you're back into season. So it's a year-round sport, but really awesome to, get guys back in Ravens uniforms, get guys back at the facility, and really excited to continue breaking down this team as we get closer to the regular season. So that's all I have for you today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. On the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage. And of course, we'll be back here tomorrow talking more Ravens football. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.